Fox News is moderating this debate. It's a Republican debate. It makes sense. Chris Wallace had challenged Ron Paul by saying, do you really even belong in this party? I mean, you're not even for senseless wars. Come on, what the hell? And Wallace said, look, no matter what the rest of the country thinks, 77% of the Republicans believe that this war kicks ass, and you don't. So what are you doing at this debate, right? And Ron Paul had a great answer to that. And he's like, but that's 77% of a shrinking number. He said that number would be much larger. That percentage would be lower, but the number would be larger. Our base would be larger if we realize this war makes no sense, as most of the country does, and gave a good reason for it. So later on, they come back to that same topic, and Giuliani will not have it. I mean, okay, we're going to get to the torture stuff next, but this is a good prelude to how these Republicans think. So first, Ron Paul. I believe Britt Hume is asking the question. No, I'm sorry. The other moderator is asking the question here. And then Ron Paul will answer, then Giuliani will come in, and then Ron Paul again, and then they'll have an exchange between everybody. Here you go.
Congressman Paul, I believe you are the only man on the stage who opposes the war in Iraq, who would bring the troops home as quickly as almost immediately, sir. Are you out of step with your party? Is your party out of step with the rest of the world? If either of those is the case, why are you seeking its nomination?
Well, I think the party has lost its way because the conservative wing of the Republican Party always advocated a non-interventionist foreign policy. Senator Robert Taft didn't want to be in NATO. George Bush won the election in year 2000 campaigning on a humble foreign policy, no nation building, no policing of the world. Republicans were elected to end the Korean War. The Republicans were elected to end the Vietnam War. There's a strong tradition of being anti-war in the Republican Party. It is the constitutional position. It is the advice of the founders to follow a non-interventionist foreign policy. Stay out of entangling alliances. Be friends with countries. Negotiate and talk with them and trade with them. Just think of the tremendous improvement relationship with Vietnam. We lost 60,000 men. We came home in defeat. Now we go over there and we invest in Vietnam. So there's a lot of merit to the advice of the founders and following the Constitution. And my argument is that we shouldn't go to war so carelessly. When we do, the wars don't end.
Congressman, you don't think that changed with the 9/11 attack, sir?
What changed?
The non-interventionist policies.
No, non-intervention was a major contributing factor. Have you ever read about the reasons they attacked us? They attack us because we've been over there. We've been bombing Iraq for 10 years. We've been in the Middle East. I think Reagan was right. We don't understand the irrationality of Middle Eastern politics. So right now we're building an embassy in Iraq that's bigger than the Vatican. We're building 14 permanent bases. What would we say here if China was doing this in our country or in the Gulf of Mexico? We would be objecting. We need to look at what we do from the perspective of what would happen if somebody else did it to us.
Are you suggesting we invited the 9/11 attack, sir?
I'm suggesting that we listen to the people who attacked us and the reason they did it. And they are delighted that we're over there because Osama bin Laden has said, I am glad you're over on our sand because we can target you so much easier. They have already now, since that time, have killed 3,400 of our men, and I don't think it was necessary.
Wendell, may I make a comment on that? That's really an extraordinary statement. It's an extraordinary statement of someone who lived through the attack of September 11, that we invited the attack because we were attacking Iraq. I don't think I've ever heard that before, and I've heard some pretty absurd explanations for September 11. I would ask the congressman to withdraw that comment and tell us that he didn't really mean that.
Congressman?
I believe very sincerely that the CIA is correct when they teach and talk about blowback. When we went into Iran in 1953 and installed the Shah, yes, there was blowback. The reaction to that was the taking of our hostages, and that persists. And if we ignore that at our own risk. That if we think that we can do what we want around the world and not incite hatred, then we have a problem. They don't come here to attack us because we're rich and we're free. They come and they attack us because we're over there. I mean, what would we think if if other foreign countries were doing that to us?
Can I have 30 seconds, please?
No, wait a second. Let's all get 30 seconds.
They are coming.
We all want 30 seconds. Wendell, go ahead.
I think I'm going to turn to Senator McCain and change the subject, if I will.
All right. Giuliani's line there got the biggest applause of the whole night. Like, yes, let's not think. Don't worry about what the enemy thinks. Let's just be stupid. Okay. And the Republican base cheered and they cheered. And what's amazing is Ron Paul is the real conservative there. That's been the conservative position for decades. And here they are, they're arguing for, I'm an interventionist. That's the funny part of all this, right? And that was a problem I had with the...
I think the funny part is that you're an interventionist.
Yeah,
right.
I know, but it is. Like, that was the part of, my thinking back when I was a conservative. Well, on the other hand, I'm not like the Pat Buchanan types. I'm kind of an interventionist. I agreed with the first Persian Gulf War, right? And a number of other things that we did, including the Korean War. But the conservative position has always been more isolationist. Stay at home, protect your borders, etc. Now they've run so amok that therefore these crazy wars that are like interventionism on steroids, and the base doesn't know what the hell they're rooting for anymore. And they're applauding things that don't make any sense.